It's a beautiful day outside. Sunday 10 a.m. I'm currently sitting on the couch as I look at the wall like it's the most interesting thing in the world. This is the result of searching for an hour for a story to read and not finding anything decent. I've already completed all the games I have 100%, so I don't have much of a choice. After questioning my existence, I decided to go back to looking for a fanfic to read, and I ended up finding a very interesting one about Dragon Ball. Now the real test begins. See the labels of the story. Let's see, there is no harem or evil psychopathic protagonist, there is no ultra-broken system that makes you Christ, so alright, I said with a tired tone. Well, I guess I can read it after breakfast, I said to then get up and go to the kitchen. And yes, I know how to cook, this due to being alone for a long time and living in Latin America, their learning to cook is almost an obligation to survive. I also like to cook. The strange thing is that the water supply has not worked for days and I have had to use all the water in the refrigerator for cooking. This mainly because I am too lazy to go to a restaurant and because I prefer food made by me. After the most American breakfast possible, I mean scrambled eggs with bacon and orange juice, I started reading the story. But I made the most serious mistake in the fanfiction, not reading the description, and well, there is no harem, but not because the protagonist is decent but because this story is of a yaoi genre. Where the fuck is the chlorine? I yelled after reading something unnecessarily descriptive. I'm not homophobic or anything like that, but I follow the teachings of a wise man, what they put in the butt is not of my importance. After burning my eyes with orange juice when I found no chlorine, I sat down on the couch again. Well, that was ugly, but at least I lost my boredom for a few minutes, I said with the same face I had after seeing Boku no Pico. Not having anything better to do, I decided to look through my bedroom window, after obviously deleting the fanfic along with the application. Today is a nice day, I have to admit, but it's not like that changed my decision to stay home, I said as I looked at the surprisingly empty street. They're probably in a human rights march, that's fun. After a while I could see a person who seemed to be doing Half-Life cosplay, only instead of a head crab he had a mushroom covering his head. It seems like a combination of Half-Life zombies and The Last of Us, it's quite interesting, I said with a bit of intrigue. After watching him walk for a while I got bored, and decided to see what's new on YouTube, finding a video of Dross from 2 weeks ago. Let me guess, the world is going to end and it's disturbing, I said after seeing the title. The video spoke disturbingly of a mushroom created by the Russians after their discontent with the new president of the United States. Stupid actually. Yup, the world is going to end again, what a surprise, I murmured in a bored tone. In the end, I decided to ignore it and play Mega Man 04 in hard mode, which means exploding like a popcorn after being shot, until I got to Kraft, who beat me up. After a few hours of unsuccessful attempts, I decided to eat lunch and ended up taking a nap, which is very weird. 8 p.m. I woke up after hearing someone knocking on the door, and after internally cursing, I decided to see who it is. Looking out the living room window, I could say that it was the guy in the cosplay costume from earlier, but this one seemed a bit agitated, so I decided to do what I always do when I don't know someone, just ignore him. I decided to go to the kitchen to make some dinner and ended up seeing memes about the Russian Tripolosky mushroom. I probably have to water it down with vodka to make it grow, hehe, I said jokingly. I started looking for information about the fungus, and it turns out that it is indeed a threat to humans, since it infects others very easily. The symptoms are loss of consciousness, aggressive attitude towards other people and changes in the physical body. The latter depending on what mutation the fungus is. They also grow some fungi in the body, and depending on their blood type they can present mutations, with drastic changes in the way it spreads or improves the body. The worst thing is that they are more realistic than I thought, since they do not need to eat, because the fungus feeds on moonlight and infects the host's body, making it more fungus than human. Good thing I ignored the guy out there, I said with a little fear. And just at that moment I heard my door fall apart. 2 comments 0 vote. Who will pay for my door? Crack. And that was the sound of my door, this won't be pretty. To put you in the scene, in my house there is only one room, a kitchen, a bathroom and a living room which I never use, and that is where my partner is right now. And well, like Jehovah's Witnesses he ended up entering the house after knocking on the door for an hour. The first thing I did was look for a weapon, in this case a kitchen knife, since I may live in the United States, but I do not have a firearm, it isn't in my blood. After taking the knife and calming down a bit, I decided to see what was happening in the room. To make this moment more spooky all the lights are off, as a certain genie didn't turn on the lights before sleeping. After noticing that, I decided to do what anyone would do in this situation, I locked myself in my room. Let's see, calm down, being nervous will only make you die faster, I said to myself in a futile attempt to calm myself down. I started looking for more information about the fungus and discovered the changes depending on the blood type. A. B. This type of zombie stands out for having a fungus covering its head and specializes in spreading the disease, due to the spores that it expels. AB+. These zombies specialize in speed. They stand out for having fungus on their legs and hips. A. These specialize in strength and stand out for having fungus on the torso and arms. O+. These specialize in resistance and are practically immune to bullets. The good thing is that they are slower than the others. They stand out for having their body completely covered with fungi, having greater armor on their head. Oh, no data is available. All zombies, apart from the first one, are especially sensitive to sound and have to bite you more than twice to infect you. Okay, so my partner out there is in a way the least dangerous, I just have to be careful with his spores, I muttered under my breath. From what I read, I have to be 3 meters close to him for more than 30s to get infected. The bad thing is that I don't think he will let me go around him easily, since these are better when it comes to locating his prey. They spread a kind of dust 50 meters around them, which helps them locate living beings, but they cannot hear, see, or smell anything, and they are also quite clumsy. I guess this is the tutorial. Where's the typewriter? I mumbled to try to ease the atmosphere. But apparently someone didn't like my joke, since the next thing I heard was a knock on the door. Think, what am I supposed to do in this situation? I thought as I heard louder and louder knocks on the door. Let's see, I need a firearm and an easy-to-use melee weapon like a baseball bat, as well as food and drink, and if I could find something to purify the water it would be perfect, and a flashlight. You can't have an apocalypse without a flashlight. Luckily I know the perfect place. To Walmart, I said out loud, then put my phone in my pants and jump out the window. I am currently wearing my typical navy blue jacket with a white t-shirt, black sweatpants and black Crocs too, very apocalyptic I would say. The good thing is that my selection of colors helps me to have some camouflage at night. It's not the best idea to go outside at night in a zombie apocalypse, but in my defense, I didn't have much of a choice, as you can't kill a zombie that has the advantage in close combat with a fish-cutting knife. Besides, I'd rather not kill them, as a cure could be created, and I'd be here playing Chris Redfield killing anything that moves and hitting rocks. The good news is that Walmart is 2 blocks to the right of my house. God bless the convenience of Walmart. When I left, the first thing I noticed was the silence, and if I'm honest, I'm scared, mainly because these kinds of moments always end badly. After passing the first street, I could see the Walmart in the distance, so I sped up a bit more. Upon arrival I took a break for a moment before entering and tried to remember which block the weapons were in, to get there as quickly as possible. Oddly I remember that it's the P block, because every time I passed by I was heading for a P block joke by Pumped Up Kicks. Maximum effort, I said after thinking about the shortest way to get there. 3 comments 0 vote. Walmart, the most convenient place in the world. After entering, I could notice the empty and untidy shelves around. Curiously, the one with the toilet paper was intact. What the heck, that's weirder than the Russian zombie apocalypse, I said in shock. Upon reaching the P block I could notice a zombie with its body completely covered by the fungus, and that conveniently was standing in front of the weapons. Obviously he couldn't be in a corner of the Walmart waiting for me to shoot him, I mumbled in an annoyed tone. After thinking for a while I decided to do what I would do if this was Resident Evil, I mean create a distraction and then surround the zombie. And here is where the toilet paper works in an apocalypse. Poor idiots who left it here. Pam. After throwing the shelf, the zombie noticed the noise and walked slowly towards it. I was lucky to find the slowest of them, because I have no guarantee of surviving the AB plus blood one. By circling the zombie I was able to get to the weapons rack, but only one firearm and several melee weapons remained. The pistol is a 9mm weekend and surprise surprise has no bullets. It takes me th, I said before closing my mouth, remembering the zombie behind. Apparently he was unaware of the noise and kept looking around the shelf. That was close, I thought when I realized my mistake. What I should do now is going to the warehouse to get ammo for this thing. How do I know what kind of ammunition I need? Actually, I don't know, I'm just going to test until a cartridge fits the weapon. I've never used a firearm, but I'm an engineer, so I doubt it's very complicated. Still, I won't use it until I practice with it a bit. After getting up and grabbing the weekend along with a metal baseball bat, I began to sneak up to the warehouse. I was always good at being quiet, so I already had practice. Before entering the warehouse, I took a blue backpack and put the knife, a bottle of water and the weekend in it. Upon arrival, surprisingly, the lights were on. There were only a few that were blinking, and obviously I got as far away from those as possible. I started looking through the ammo boxes until I found one that would fit the weekend. After a while, I found the right one and put all the ammo I found in the backpack. But not everything could be perfect, since when I finished storing the ammunition, a box from the bottom fell to the ground, and the worst thing is that it had glass inside. Now it did take me, I said, almost crying. Said and done, I could hear the footsteps of the zombie behind the door. From what I understand, most of his armor is on his head, so head shooting is out of the question, plus I still don't know how to use the weapon. The best I can do is make him stumble, and from the weight of him, it will be almost impossible for him to get off the ground for a while. I took a reinforced rope from a box in front of the ammunition, and tied it to both legs of the shelves. After finishing, I started clapping to get the attention of the zombie. Noticing the noise, the zombie started walking towards me slowly. I have to be honest, if this doesn't work, I'm going to run like never before in my life towards the exit, completely forgetting to keep looking for supplies here. Fortunately, luck smiled at me and the zombie fell to the ground after going through the trap. Well, now to find a water purifier and some Oreos, I said after taking the rope with which I made the trap and putting it in my backpack. Apparently the water purifier doesn't sell much, since I didn't find it in any of the boxes near the door. It should be at the back or where the lights are flashing, I said reluctantly. Going to flickering lights or deep, shallow places spells death in this situation, but not having a purifier in an emergency can be a big problem too. Going around making fires to boil water can call in unwanted guests, and I don't mean zombies but humans. Honestly, I'm more scared of a human desperate to survive than a zombie. After searching around the area of the flashing lights and finding nothing, I decided to go to the bottom to search. With total caution, and with the bat in hand, I began to search the boxes at the bottom without lowering my guard, and just after finding a purifier and putting it in my backpack I heard a voice. Excuse me sir, said a childish voice. Ah. I yelled with a Mr. Pello voice. 0 comments 0 vote. Download the app for greater interaction. You can chat with me about my writing experience apart from the comments section. Grim_Jester. Download app now. Nah, I rather the MILFs. After my scream, which would leave the one who made the voice of Kratos in GAO 4 in pain, I looked in the direction of the voice. There I could see a little girl hidden behind a box, with long brown hair, green eyes, skin a little whiter than mine, about 8 or 9 years old and wearing a lime-colored dress that matched her eyes and white shoes. After calming down I decided to ask the million-dollar question. Kid, what are you doing here? I said with a worried tone. Seeing a kid turned into a zombie is something that I do not want in my conscience. I was looking for something to drink when I saw a mushroom sir and I hid here, little girl. And where are your parents? Ken. My mom is at home, but I've been out of there a long time, little girl. So they ran out of water. Right now I appreciate having the purifier, but I'm going to take more bottles of water just in case. Another thing, who leaves her daughter alone in a zombie apocalypse? And more importantly, how did I not realize this situation before? Right now I'm internally cursing being so unsocial and carefree about the news. Don't blame me, the news now are mostly about things like, what new genre was created and what is its flag. The little girl seemed to be scared, so I decided to try to calm her down. Tell me girl, what is your name? I said in the kindest possible tone, bending down a bit. My name is Haley, Haley. Tell me Haley, do you know where your home is? If you want I can take you there, Ken. I have to admit, right now I feel like a kidnapper. My mom always says not to go with strangers, why you won't hurt me right? Haley said, hiding behind the box. After hearing that I have a question, how can there be someone so son of a bitches to hurt a girl? It's things like this that make me want to be a cat instead of a human being. Don't worry girl, I'm more of MILFs, I said with total pride. What is a MILF? Haley. You'll know when you grow up, Ken. After talking for a few minutes I managed to calm the girl down and make her tell me where she lives. I estimate that the O+ zombie has about 10 minutes left on the ground, so there's no rush. It turns out that the girl lives a few houses to the right, which explains how she got here. Come, let's go to your home, I said as I bent down and extended my hand towards her. After a moment of hesitation, the girl came over and took my hand. When I left the warehouse, I took another black backpack and filled it with all the canned food and drink that I could, as well as a flashlight, another small backpack for the girl in red, and finally some headphones. Maybe it's the apocalypse, but I probably get bored after a month and want to listen to music. The street in front of the Walmart was empty and very poorly lit. I almost felt like I was in Latin America again. The girl guided me to her home as we walked quietly through the streets. I saw the time on my phone and it is 9 p.m. so there is still a long way to go before dawn, plus I realized that I only have 30% battery. Good thing I took the flashlight, which I made sure is long-lasting. Upon arrival I could see a two-story house, white in color, with a fairly well-kept garden and with the lights off. "Girl, stay in that bush and don't make noise, I'll go see where your mother is," I said softly as I pointed to the bush behind her. "Oh okay, Haley." I left the girl along with the two backpacks, and after telling her not to open the blue backpack, I went into the house with the flashlight and the bat. I am one of those people who always prepare for the worst scenario. If guided by my luck I would be 3 meters underground. Although I have to admit that a zombie apocalypse was totally out of my calculations. I left the girl in the bush mainly to avoid any possible harm to her, both physical and mental. Upon arrival I turned on the flashlight and noticed that the door was broken, and there were several pieces of furniture and boxes scattered around the entrance. I know how this is going to end, so I'm thankful I left the girl outside. I started to explore the house and realized that it was quite humble and cozy. After inspecting the first floor I did not find anything relevant. Going up the stairs I could see several photos of the girl and her mother. Her mother has brown hair and eyes, brown skin, and Central American features, unlike the girl who has American features. On the second floor I could see 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and the door to the back room was on the floor. I turned off the flashlight and silently approached the broken door. Upon arrival, I saw something that I never want to see again. 0 comments 0 vote. A little owl. The only thing that illuminated the room was the moonlight through the window. But it was enough. Enough to see the blood and pieces of what a woman was. Enough to finally realize the seriousness of the situation I am in, and what it represents. I have to admit I saw this coming, but still living it is a completely different experience. The smell of blood, the fear, the feeling of fragility, the beating of the heart, the need to express feelings that I don't know how to express. That means watching someone die. I wanted to scream, run, vomit, and even for a moment, I wanted to do something that I haven't done since I was 15 years old. I wanted to cry. But still, somehow, I kept silent, because I knew that any sound would lead me to the same fate. In one corner of the room was a zombie covered with mushrooms on his torso and arms, staring at the window. A.B. I decided enough was enough, but before I left I noticed something next to the door. A small stuffed animal shaped like an owl. I don't know why I felt the need to take it to the girl, but I would say it's a kind of the woman's last will. Or maybe, an attempt to calm my conscience for not being able to save her. I put the flashlight in my pants and took the stuffed animal. When I touched it I realized that it was a little wet, so I could tell that it is tears. Apparently the owl is important. After taking the owl I went back the way I came, even more silently than before. As I came out, I could see that the girl was poking her head above the bush. "Sir, where is my mommy?" Haley said confused. At that question I was completely frozen. I never liked lying, I could never even do it right. But I can't just tell the truth. So I took a deep breath, and said the best thing I could think of. "Apparently your mother is not here, she probably went looking for you, so we may see her soon," I said in a soft tone and surprisingly without stuttering. Oh I see," said Haley who seemed to be about to cry. Before she burst into tears I showed the teddy to the girl and said, "Look, I found this friend on the second floor, do you know whose he is?" I said feigning ignorance. Seeing the owl, the girl reacted quickly. "It's the Mr. Owl, my mom G gave it to me on my last birthday," she said as she resisted the urge to cry and extended her arms towards the teddy owl. As the girl took it, she closed her eyes, hugged him tightly and calmed down almost instantly. It must still have the smell of her mother, I thought with a touch of pity. From what I saw in the photos of the house, the girl only has her mother and no one else. Therefore, when this situation is resolved, the girl will end up in an orphanage. But this is not the time to think about that. After resting for a few minutes and calming my heart rate a bit, I told the girl, "I'm going to a safe place, do you want to come with me?" I said quietly. It's not like she has much of a choice, but I want to know the girl's opinion of me. At my question, the girl opened her eyes and looked at me for a moment before asking, "Where are you going to go, sir?" Haley said with a hint of mistrust. Wow, she's smarter than I thought a little surprised. Even after all this, she has not been affected by the suspension bridge syndrome, and she still shows distrust towards me. She is quite impressive. I will go to a firing range where zombies cannot hear me, and also to learn how to use a weapon, I said with complete honesty. These zombies are mostly guided by sound, except for A and B. So a soundproof room is the safest place I can think of, plus it will help me learn how to use the weapon. It is a win-win. Hearing that the zombies would not approach, she quickly agreed to go with me. Seeing that the girl agrees, I sat down on the ground and started looking for the location with the GPS. My eyes have gotten used to the darkness, so the light from the phone hurt a bit. It's already 9:45 p.m. and the closest firing range is 6 blocks ahead and 2 blocks to the left. It's a bit far, but getting there is going to increase my chances of survival, so it's worth it. I put my phone in the blue backpack, then got up and put both packs on my shoulders. They are a bit heavy, but this is not the time to complain. I took the bat with my right hand and said to the girl, "Come, I know where to go," I said as I extended my hand towards her. The girl took my hand and so we began to walk towards our destination. 3 comments 0 vote. Aftermath. The trip was a bit complicated, we had to surround some zombies and stay more than 50 meters away from the A and B. But at 10:30 p.m. we finally reached the firing range. Upon arrival I looked around, and after making sure there were no zombies nearby, I left the girl outside while I inspected the building. After searching everywhere and finding nothing, I let the girl in and closed the door. The first room upon entering is the waiting room, where there are 2 long sofas and a small table with magazines in the center. After sitting down, I put the 2 backpacks on the table along with the bat. And after what could be considered the most eventful night of my entire life, I was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. "Yes, sir, see, can we get something to eat?" Haley said sheepishly. "Of course, I forgot." "Sure, are you allergic to something?" I said while looking in my backpack. I have a peanut allergy, Haley." How good, I never liked peanuts, Ken." "Do you prefer corn or beans?" I said, showing her the cans. "I like beans better, Haley." After opening the can with the knife I gave it to the girl. "Yes, sir, do you have a spoon?" Besides, this can is very cold," Haley said with a touch of reluctance. "Not at the moment, but tomorrow at dawn I will go and get everything we need, can you wait until tomorrow?" I said in an understanding tone. I was always picky about food, another reason I learned to cook, so I understand it. The girl thought about it for a moment and then she nodded a bit sadly. "Do you want a drink?" "Look, I have apple juice," I said while showed her a small box of juice to try to cheer her up. "I like apple juice," Haley said, quite excited and jumping up and down. Okay, it's not so good, it's just a juice," I said, a little entertained and giving the girl the juice. Following this, the girl settled into one of the sofas using the stuffed animal as a pillow and fell asleep before I knew it. As for me, I doubt that I will be able to sleep for the next few days. Every time I close my eyes I feel that I am, again, in front of that scene. I had endured it until now, but I think I have already reached my limit. I felt like vomiting again, along with that feeling of weakness and fear. I'm not particularly afraid of what's after death, but dying like that is something that gives me chills just thinking about it. My hands began to shake and sweat, my pulse quickened and I began to breathe heavily. My mind could only remind me of that moment over and over again as if it were some kind of torture. After a few minutes I ended up in one of the corners of the room in fetal position. Just try not to think about it, I thought to myself. My feelings are quite rare, but the few times they appear they are quite significant. I tend to openly show the way I feel, even though most of the time it is indifference and exhaustion. This makes me susceptible to any emotion, and results in quite a noticeable reaction. But it's the best. Showing feelings instead of hiding or containing them is one of the keys to my peace of mind. Nothing in the universe simply disappears, it just transforms. This includes a person's feelings, experiences and memories. Better to let it all go now than to hold it back and wait for it to explode in my face. This is something I learned many years ago. One of the advantages of my indifference is that my emotions never go from 0 to 100, therefore what I usually feel is only a fraction of the feeling itself. If I were a happy and energetic person, I would probably be losing my sanity right now. This advantage can also be a disadvantage, since my life is not very interesting. Going from 0 to 100 can kill a person if the feeling is too strong, but that also makes their lives more interesting. It's like going on a roller coaster, going up and down suddenly, making the feeling more significant. In my case, it is like riding in a car and suddenly finding a hole. The bump will be felt, but only because the fairway is normally flat. After an hour, I was finally able to calm down a bit and tried to distract myself thinking about what to do tomorrow. When I raised my head I could see that the girl was trembling. She must be cold, I thought with a bit of concern. I walked over and carefully sat down next to the girl, then removed my jacket and covered her with it. Upon covering her, the girl stopped trembling and continued to sleep peacefully. I'll have to find some blankets, and so I started listing the things I need. And after all this, my first night in this mess ends. 1 comment 0 vote. A good chef. The next morning I woke up at 6 a.m. and went to get the supplies to make breakfast at Walmart. Thanks to the clarity of the day, the extreme caution, and my naturally silent steps, I had no problem avoiding the zombies. And now I am going back to the girl while carrying 2 other backpacks, one gray and one yellow, full of kitchen utensils, food, an electric stove, blankets, hygiene products, first aid, a charger and the Oreos that I forgot before. I really have to find another way to handle all of this. Upon arrival, I realized that the girl was still sleeping, so I quietly closed the door, plugged the charger into my phone, and started cooking. Cooking has always been a very relaxing and rewarding activity for me, so I have no problem doing it. I started making breakfast that both children and adults enjoy. I mean pancakes. They are easy to make and serve a good and healthy diet, so I will do them quite a bit. When finished, I checked my phone and realized that it is 8:30 a.m., so it's time to wake up the girl. Arriving in front of the girl and seeing her sleep so peacefully, I asked myself, how do I wake her up? I thought while I had the face of deciphering the origin of the universe. In the end, I decided to poke her cheeks with my finger until she woke up. At first she seemed a bit confused, but after a moment she remembered the situation. Good morning, sir, said Haley, a little sleepy. Good morning, girl, it's time to rise and shine, I said with a smile. In the gray backpack there is soap, a toothbrush and toothpaste. Take some water from the black backpack and when you finish come have breakfast, Ken. Hearing that she would have breakfast, the girl took her things and quickly ran to the bathroom. So this is what parenthood feels like. It's quite gratifying, I thought to myself as I watched the girl's enthusiasm, and I put my jacket back on. After a few minutes the girl came back, and I gave her a disposable plate with 2 pancakes, some honey and orange juice. Seeing it, the girl's eyes sparkled and she began to eat quickly. Hey, eat slowly or you'll choke, I said with a worried tone. At my warning the girl nodded slightly and began to eat more slowly. I also started eating the same as the girl, only that unlike her I was drinking coffee. And if you wonder, did you really go to the trouble of looking for a coffee maker just to have coffee? I'll tell you, well of course, coffee is sacred. After a few minutes the girl finished eating and she told me. Thank you, sir. She said with a bright smile. Don't worry, girl, and tell me, what did you think of breakfast? I asked with a smile. It was very good and the pancakes were very fluffy. Haley said energetically. How can she have so much energy? I thought, slightly surprised. Not even when I was a kid did I have that kind of energy. Simply put, I'm lazy from birth. After the girl calmed down, she puffed out her cheeks and looked at me with a thoughtful expression. Geez, I think I need insulin, I thought as I drank coffee to counteract it. I was never a fan of sweet things, in fact I prefer sour flavors. The Oreos are the most I can bear without drinking coffee. After a few seconds, the girl asked me. Sir, what is your name? Haley asked curiously. Didn't I tell you? I asked in shock. Nope, Haley. Well done, Ken, don't you say your name to someone who has been with you for more than 12 hours, how great you are, I thought as I complained about my socialization methods. My name is Ken River, Ken. Oh, what a nice name, Haley. Thank you, yours is very nice too, I said with a smile. Yup, my mommy says it's also the name of a comet, Haley said, puffing out her little chest with pride. Her mother, I thought with a touch of sadness. Before the girl asked a question that I cannot answer, I decided to change the subject. What would you like for dessert? Ken. I want some Oreos. Haley said quite happily as she lifted her arms. I like this girl better and better, I thought as I handed her a 4-pack of cookies. When I finished, I told the girl to wash her hands and I started cleaning. After cleaning, I sat on the couch and started playing Super Mario Advance until the girl came up to me and said. Mr. Ken, what are you doing? Haley asked curiously. I'm playing, do you want to try? I said, extending my phone towards her. And this is how the gaming community gained a new member. That girl fills me with pride. 1 comment 0 vote. Just don't shoot yourself. It's been 3 days since then and yesterday I was finally able to get some sleep. Although it was only 3 hours, it was enough to regain some of my almost non-existent energy. Today I am going to try to learn how to use the weekend. I had not practiced before due to my unstable mental state, but now I am a little better, so I can start now. After breakfast I took the gun along with a magazine of ammunition and went to the shooting area. Hey girl, if you hear a loud noise behind this door don't panic, it's just that I'm practicing something, I said before entering. I'm not sure if she heard me, as she's very into Super Mario right now. I also don't think the gunshot is heard outside of this room, so there isn't much of a problem. The shooting room is to the right of the waiting room, you go down a small hallway then turn left and there it is. If you turn right you will find the bathroom. Upon entering I turned on the lights and was able to see various positions to practice. I took the one in the middle and started thinking about how to use this thing. Let's see, first move the barrel away from my body so as not to die, I thought as I pointed the gun forward. As far as I know the button on the side of the gun works to release the ammo magazine and the little tab sticking out from the rear is the safety. And my biggest guide to this is the Bruce Willis movies, so it should be fine, right? Now that I think about it, I could have looked for a tutorial on YouTube. Anyway, I pulled the slide, held the gun with both hands by the grip, being careful with the recoil of the same, removed the safety, aimed at the head of the target not like a certain Asgardian, took a deep breath and fired. Bang. Ouch. And the weekend hit me right in the forehead. Turns out I didn't hold it tight enough and when I fired the gun slipped from my hands and hit me in the center of the forehead. Well, my first shot was technically a headshot so I guess that's fine. Seriously, the bullet went through the target's chest, it was a good shot. I just have to hold the gun tighter. After a while the charger ran out and I stopped practicing. My best mark is a shot to the neck. It wasn't very complicated, I thought to myself. My goal is to learn to shoot with one hand, as this will help me be more versatile in a dangerous situation. As I left, I realized that the girl was in front of the door looking at me curiously. Mr. Ken, what are you doing? Haley said curiously. I was practicing how to use this thing, I said while pointing at the weapon. Oh, and what does it do? Haley. Well, this will help us defend ourselves against zombies and people, Ken. Why do we have to defend ourselves against people? Did we do something wrong? Haley asked worriedly. No girl, it's just that sometimes people are bad by nature or because they had bad experiences throughout their lives, I said in an explanatory tone as I crouched down in front of her. The girl looked at me for a moment, but after a few seconds her expression turned worried. Mr. Ken, you're bleeding. Haley said pointing at my forehead. I put my hand on my forehead and realized that indeed, I was bleeding. Apparently the blow was stronger than I thought, I mumbled with a bit of surprise. Wait here, I'll be right back. Haley said and then ran to the waiting room. I just watched her run with a bit of curiosity while I was still crouching. After a few seconds the girl came back and put a band-aid on my forehead. Done, it's better now. Haley said very excited. On the other hand, I was touched by her small gesture, almost shedding male tears. Suddenly the girl's expression turned sad, and before I could ask, she said. Mr. Ken, am I a bad person? Haley said with little tears in her eyes. Why do you say that? I said in total confusion. Is that if I had not run away from home my mommy would not be worried looking for me, said Haley on the verge of breaking into tears. I just put my hand on her head and told her with a smile. Of course you are not a bad person, you cured me a moment ago, right? Besides, you are still a girl, it is normal to make mistakes and do mischief at this age, I said as I patted her head. After a few minutes, the girl calmed down and returned to her energetic attitude. Thank you very much Mr. Ken. She said and then give me a little hug and go to the waiting room. On the other hand, I was shocked for a few seconds due to the hug. I think I need coffee, this was too sweet for me, I thought as I looked for the coffee pot. 0 comments 0 vote. The journey begins. 2 days have passed since then and I decided to go to Helena, Montana. Why? You little and invasive reader may be wondering, well, for several reasons. First, this place is not completely safe, basically I depend on no zombie A or B walking within 50 meters around here. Second, I discovered several good and bad things about these zombies. It turns out that they are very sensitive to cold. They do not survive below 7 degrees, which makes sense, since Russia made them this way so that they would not get out of control. If it were winter we would all be safe, right? The problem is, we're in the fucking March, so that plan went to hell. I also have new information about my fellow zombies. Do you remember that guy from cosplay with a fungus covering his head? Well, it turns out that if for some strange reason he dies, it would cover an area of 500 meters of spores that can infect you in less than 5 seconds, and that area would only be habitable 20 minutes after the explosion. The worst thing is that even a high enough sound could cause them to die. AB zombies are very aggressive, and they don't mind infecting others just looking for blood. Fortunately, they are extremely rare. By the way, after being infected, the symptoms appear half an hour later, and people with O blood are immune to the virus. If you're wondering my blood type, I'm O+. What? You expected me to have O blood and that no matter how much they bite me, I would still not get infected. Me too, but apparently the author doesn't like me. And the last reason is because they just cut the electricity. Damn the Gover, damn zombies. That's why I decided to go to Montana, which in addition to having a temperature below 7 degrees, is also relatively close. And so I began the preparations for the trip. First of all, I looked for my car in my home and brought it here, nothing to highlight from said trip. Second, I filled the trunk of it with all the backpacks, firewood, an axe, various snacks, water, a lighter and a portable charger. Plus a few tools in case something happens to the car. Even after thinking about it for several hours, I don't feel like I've forgotten anything. I also checked if the fuel tank is full, so all good. I still can't shoot well with one hand, but I have good aim when using both. Anyway, I think it's time to start the journey. Well girl, it's time to go, I said to the girl, who all this time was looking at me from the entrance with curiosity. Where are we going, Mr. Ken? Haley asked. We will go to Helena, Montana, Ken. Who is she? Her name is very nice, Haley said, a little confused. She's not a person, it's a city in the state of Montana, I said, a little amused by her question. Oh, and how is it like? Haley said in an excited tone. I haven't been there, but from what I know it's a cold and pretty place, Ken. Besides, it's a zombie-free place, where most of the people are probably, Ken. Mr. Ken, do you think my mommy is there? Haley said, full of expectations. It's as much as possible, go get your things, it's time to go, I said, smiling nervously. Okay. Haley said very happily and then ran to get her things. I know that hiding the truth can do her more harm than good. But I can't tell her. At least not until we reach our destination. After a few minutes, the girl left the place with her little red backpack on her back. Are you ready yet? Ken. Yup, look, Haley said as she smiled and then showed her backpack. At that moment I realized that the head of the little owl was sticking out of the backpack. It is quite adorable. Well, it's time to go, are you sure you didn't forget anything? I asked curiously. The girl puffed out her cheeks and took on the same pensive expression as her last time. I have to get used to that, I thought as I had a diabetic attack. And so our journey to our first destination began. Las Vegas. Who knew it took a zombie apocalypse for me to go to Vegas? It is currently 8 a.m., I chose this time to arrive in Las Vegas in the afternoon, more specifically at 2 p.m. After 2 hours of traveling, I was able to hear something interesting on the radio. The girl is currently sleeping in the backseat, so I had to turn the volume down a bit. Attention people of the United States, in recent days the virus created by the Russians has infected 40% of our population. If you are listening to this, I recommend you go to the shelters installed in Montana. Any update in the information will be broadcast on all stations, so stay tuned. The same message was repeated several times, so I decided to turn off the radio. Well, apparently it was a good decision to go to Montana. How great you are, Ken, I said with false arrogance and puffing up my chest with pride. And so our journey began. 0 comments, 0 vote. Special chapter, Innocence. From the time I was born until I was 15 years old, I could describe myself in 4 words: innocent, kind, shy and calm. At this age, I was even more indifferent than I am today. When I was in kindergarten I had no friends, even at that time I was lousy in social relationships. I also skipped a year, probably the year they taught me to be normal. Different things happened in primary school. First of all, I had a friend. He was a chubby and geek boy, which was very weird back then. He even wore glasses. But he was a good friend. Although I always sat alone at recess, since I liked being lost in my thoughts, he always approached me and told me about the wonders of the geek and gamer world. Although I had nothing to add due to my inexperience, he never judged me, he never expected anything in return, he just wanted someone to listen to him. And so he told me about many things: creepypastas, God of War, Resident Evil, even Dross videos. All with great emotion and joy. I just listened to all of his stories with curiosity and a smile on my face. Creepypastas scared me, especially Sonic X and Tails doll, but my curiosity and desire for something other than indifference overshadowed that fear. He was a great friend, my first and last friend. Besides, he was the only thing that made me want to go to school. In elementary school I suffered a lot mentally. And it's not what you think, the ones who made me suffer were the teachers. I always believed that they hated me, or that I was not as smart as the girl who always had a perfect grade. But the main cause of my low grades was my lack of artistic ability. I can do practically anything, cook, exercise to death, learn music, understand people, or learn anything in a short time. But my artistic ability is zero. Even my handwriting is horrible. And that was why I always had terrible grades. Not because my understanding was wrong, but because my drawings weren't pretty. There was only one teacher who was good to me. The math teacher. He always told me that I was the best in my class, even when I didn't have the best grade. That helped my almost non-existent confidence a bit. Maybe that's why I wanted to be an engineer. I was always someone strange, even I consider myself that way. I never had a conversation of more than 5 minutes with the rest of my colleagues. Some even teased me verbally, but seeing that my expression never left boredom they quickly gave up. Even so, I was always a crybaby. I would cry for almost anything, the slightest physical damage made me cry. I was completely unable to stop my tears when I started crying. Besides that, the only thing I did was lose myself in my thoughts. One day I discovered the lies. At first I thought it was a way to entertain people with stories made up by yourself. But then I realized its true purpose. If used correctly, people would do whatever you wanted. Yet I never used them to harm others. I just wanted them not to hurt me. That's why I always lied so I wouldn't go to school. But after a while they stopped believing me and I had to accept my fate. I always admired people who made others laugh with their occurrences, it made me happy to see how other people shared in such a pleasant way. That's why I've always liked humor, except when people humiliate themselves. Then I started high school and it was more of the same. When I was only 5 years old, I realized that one day I was going to die, along with all the people I knew. And at 14 I had one of those existential doubts about why I exist and what my purpose is. That only lasted a week, then I said to myself, you know what, who cares? Back then I realized that I could live 80 years without purpose or direction and I would be completely fine. I remember a certain conversation with a classmate. I always saw him humble himself and do things that he did not want for the attention of others. And when I asked him why he was doing it, he just told me, because otherwise they wouldn't pay attention to me. Was he seriously humiliating himself just for attention? Has no sense. From that day on I promised myself that I would always be honest with who I am and with my opinion on any subject. And then, when I was 15 years old, they changed me of school. If I were just as innocent as in the past I would be dead, even without the need for a zombie apocalypse. 2 comments 0 vote. Las Vegas. An hour after the message on the radio the girl woke up. Mr. Ken, I'm bored, Haley said throwing a little tantrum. You want to listen music? I asked as I looked at her in the rearview mirror. What kind of music? Haley asked with a curious look. Seeing that she was interested, I took the phone out of the glove compartment along with the headphones. Along with this was The Weekend Without a Magazine, which is in my pocket, and The Bat, which is on the dash in the front seat. Then I gave the phone along with the headphones to the girl. Why don't I turn on the radio? Well, it could become dangerous if I become very passionate about the song while driving. Anyway, the girl looked for a song for a few minutes and when she found one that she liked, she began to move her head from side to side. Thank goodness I brought cough. I thought to later realize that it was what I forgot. I knew I was going to forget something, but this I thought as I cried comically. After 2 hours the girl stopped listening to music and stared out the window. Now is a good time to ask something that has been bothering me. Hey girl, do you know anything about your father? I asked with a bit of curiosity. I had not asked before because I could already get an idea by not finding any photo of him in the girl's house. But now I've grown a little fond of her and I don't want her to end up in an orphanage. My mommy never told me anything about my dad, she said those were adult things, said Haley with a bit of sadness. I see, Ken. Just when I was about to change the subject the girl spoke again. Mr. Ken, are you single? Haley said curiously. Yep, I said without caring. Why? Haley asked in confusion. Well, apparently none of the women I met like men with a future who know how to cook. They don't tell lies and they would do everything for them as long as they love them unconditionally, I said with a sarcastic tone. Or maybe I'm just very selective, Ken. I have to admit that it is probably the second. One of the requirements for a woman to like me is that she has a strong character, but that she is not a manipulator. Sort of like Kushina, Naruto's mom. Anyway, it's better to stop thinking about waifus. The girl thought for a moment and then spoke again. Mr. Ken, you should have a date with my mom, said Haley very excited. What? Was the only thing I could say with an idiot face. My mommy is always lonely and sad and you are good and you always care about me, you have my approval, said Haley giving both thumbs up. Oh okay, I said still in shock. I have fallen very low, now a girl arranges blind dates for me. Too bad I'll never be able to meet the girl's mother. After 6 hours of travel we finally reached our first stop. Las Vegas. Viva Rock Vegas, Viva Rock Vegas, Viva Viva Rock Vegas, I sang as I saw the mythical poster that appears in all the movies. Now a new problem begins, finding gasoline. I doubt it's very complicated, I just have to evade some zombies and that's it. That is the reason why I wanted to arrive early. In total it is 17 hours to reach our destination, so it only takes a little less than 2/3 of the trip. One of the reasons I didn't bring extra gas is because I don't want to poison the food or the car while it's back there. And the other is because a flammable product inside a car in an apocalypse never ends well. I should also get some ammo for the weekend and some shoes, running with Crocs is not a good idea. Anyway, I followed the GPS and went to the nearest store. The city was desert, something that probably never happened before. I was able to see various zombies, from A and B to O+. As long as I drive quietly through the streets and I don't find an AB+, we'll be fine. A few blocks before reaching the store I could see something interesting. A human being, a teenager to be exact, about 18 years old and he looked pretty misaligned. He was walking with total stealth and caution, so he heard the car almost instantly. As I passed in front of him I lowered the car window and told him. Hey brat, what are you doing? I asked quietly with curiosity. It doesn't seem strange to me to find someone healthy in this disaster, after all I am healthy and I doubt that I am the protagonist of this story. The protagonist must have a harem, blood which makes him almost immune, and for sure he was in the special forces or something like that. Anyway, the brat stared in shock for a few seconds and then reacted. 0 comments 0 vote. Kyle. I'm looking for supplies, said the young man still in shock. Oh, I see, do you know where I can find some shoes and coffee? Ken. Why you can go to a shoe store that is 2 streets to the right and that has a supermarket in front, young man. Thanks brat, I said as I got ready to leave. My name is Kyle, Kyle. Before I closed the window the brat spoke again. Hey, can you take me? I'm heading to the same place as you, Kyle asked enthusiastically. I don't know, do you want me to become a demon? I asked jokingly. Become a demon Kyojuro, Kyle said as he extended his hand towards Ken. Okay I'll take you, but first I have to give you a pass, I said as I got out of the car. When I saw him closely I could see that the brat has Latin American features, with brown hair and eyes. In terms of clothing, he has a red t-shirt, blue jeans and black shoes. His red shirt and jeans are stained with dirt, his shoes are a bit worn and he has a bat on his back. But not much can be done in an apocalypse. He also has a height of 176 centimeters so I have to look down a bit. I put my hand on his shoulder and sang. Our world's about to break, Ken. After being surprised for a few seconds, the brat understood the reference. Tormented and attacked, lost from where we wake, Kyle. With no way to go back, I was standing on my own, Ken. But now I'm not alone, Kyle. Avengers assemble. Kyle and Ken. Always we will fight as one, until the battle's won with evil on the run, Kyle and Ken. We never come undone, assembled we are strong, Kyle and Ken. Forever fight as one, assembled we are strong, forever fight as one. Kyle and Ken. Yup, a man of culture. Actually, I realized that he was a good person since I saw the first reaction from him. This was just a bonus point. One of my skills is the ability to understand a person's personality just by looking at them for a few seconds. This is why I do not have many companions, since there are few people with whom it is worth having a friendship. At least under my criteria. Anyway, after the song the brat was crying out of nostalgia for a few minutes before calming down and getting into the car. If you're wondering, I obviously took a look at the area before I started singing. The brat climbed into the passenger seat and quickly noticed the girl. Is she your daughter? Kyle asked as he pointed at Haley. No, she is a girl that I found in the middle of this disaster. Her name is Haley, Ken. And where are her parents? Kyle asked in a confused tone. My mommy is in Helena, Montana, said Haley quite excited. Really? Kyle said looking at Ken. Sure, the girl's mother is waiting for us there, I said with a nervous tone. I see, Kyle said with understanding and sadness. When I got to the supermarket I took my baseball bat and went out with the brat, but before. Hey girls, stay here and don't make noise, I'll be back in a few minutes, I said with concern. Okay Mr. Ken, I'll be fine, Haley said with a smile. After checking the supermarket and not finding anything, the brat asked me. Hey, and why are you going to Helena, Montana? Kyle asked with interest as he searched for supplies. Didn't you listen to the radio? I asked in a confused tone as I searched for the coffee. How I didn't think of it before. Kyle said as he facepalmed himself. Ha ha ha, you really are a brat, I said while laughing slightly. I'm not a brat, I'm 18 years old. Kyle said with a vein marked on his forehead. Let's see, who is the best Spider-Man? I said as looked at him seriously. Obviously it's Tom Holland, his teenage attitude fits the character better, Kyle said proudly. Yup, a brat, I said totally convinced. Just tell me, why are you going to Montana? Kyle said angrily. Okay, on the radio they said that it is a safe place and also the zombies are weak to the cold, I said with a bit of seriousness. Really? That's perfect. Kyle said excitedly. Can you carry me? Kyle asked expectantly. I don't see why not, I said without caring. See, can you bring my girlfriend too? Kyle asked a little nervous. I would have to meet her first, and judge if she is trustworthy, I said with a serious tone. Oh, don't worry, I can assure you that she is trustworthy, Kyle said a little doubtful. If you say so, I still have to meet her first, I said dismissively. After putting away the instant coffee I went to the shoe store and came back with some blue sneakers. And tell me, where is your girlfriend? I said as I got into the car. She's 2 blocks to the left and 5 blocks ahead at the firing range, Kyle. So you do know how to use your brain, well done brat, I said as I patted him on the back. And so we went to find Kyle's girlfriend. Next chapter.